And we're live. It is what is it? It's Monday. Um uh August 16th, 2021, 5:01 p.m. The Taliban have taken over Afghanistan. I cannot bear to think about it. I refuse to have a show yet to discuss it. There'll be plenty of time in the future to pull our hair out about this and rent our clothes. I'm not doing that today because it's too fresh. It feels like, the way I was expecting to feel if Trump won re-election. And I just don't want to deal with it today. So we are not allowed to have fun anymore. And if you're Afghan, you're really not allowed to have fun anymore. And if you're female and Afghan, you are really, really not allowed to have fun anymore, or even maybe to go outside anymore. So we're going to just let this sit for a while until at least I am going to let it sit until I have something coherent to say about it other than gagging noises. In the meantime, we have Virginia Heffernan, who has agreed to come on the show and avoid the subject of the Taliban, because all over Afghanistan there are people who are actually physically having to avoid the Taliban. So we are now just going to emotionally avoid the Taliban, and we're going to talk about other things. We don't know what yet, but we're going to maybe county fairs. Virginia, welcome back to In Lieu of Fun.
Thank you. I love this show. And I'm happy to understudy whoever I was understudying.
Does anyone think that Ben, saying, we're not going to mention the Taliban, anything but mentioning the Taliban, is doing that test of being I dare you not to think of bananas. Don't think of bananas. Whatever you do, don't think of bananas. And I'm just well, Ben, now you've said it 15 times. I was I thought we were just going to open and maybe not say it at all.
No. If I'm going to avoid a subject, I'm just telling you I'm avoiding it. Look, we could talk about the Taliban today. We could talk about the incredible disgrace that Joe Biden engaged in, and we could talk about the lack of standing of Republicans to criticize this, given that they were interested in perpetrating exactly the same disgrace and actually wanted to do it even faster. We could talk about all of that, but I just feel like we'll have lots of time to talk about it, and so I'd rather hear about how Virginia is spending the summer going to county fairs.
Okay, I will say that we probably on this show, but certainly elsewhere on places like Twitter, we've engaged in a lot of attacks on the New York Times and other people for going to diners to find out how fans of the former president are doing. I really think county fairs and low-end amusement parks, not Disney, not Hershey Park, but Knoebel and funnel cakes, exactly, Knoebels in central Pennsylvania, are where you really see an extraordinary cross-section of some people veiled, which gives us a moment, hijabis, that gives us a moment of solidarity with our brothers and sisters, especially sisters in Afghanistan, and also all kinds of Orthodox Jews and mixed race people and people in all kinds of garb.
Everyone loves a good fair.
Everyone loves a good fair. And it's the universal solvent for a certain kind of glee and camaraderie, and not expensive. And you find yourself anyway. Nobody talked about politics, although there weren't a lot of masks. I don't know if not wearing a mask is maybe the new red cap, but I was happy that we don't have too many sharks and jets, indications of who we are at least not along that binary thing. There are people in shirts with guns.
Do you want to hear a tragic county fair story from my childhood?
No.
How tragic?
No.
Not super tragic, but there's but upsetting.
No,
Okay, then I won't tell it.
Virginia.
It's not fair, right?
Right? No, we're not allowed to say no because we always say yes because this entire show is improv. So, Ben, go ahead and tell you. You can't dangle it. We can't let you leave it there.
You're right.
Try to put it as upbeat as possible.
All right,
There's only one Voldemort. Everyone's mentionable.
There is a villain in this story, but I don't remember. The last name was Leahy. That's all I remember, but not Patrick Leahy's family. Don't worry about it. So my ancestral homestead on my mother's side, and the Little Fun audience has met my mother. My mother grew up in Danbury, Connecticut, a mile and a half from the Danbury Fairgrounds. The Danbury Fairgrounds had become, by the time I was a child, the Connecticut State Fair. And it was I would say, it was several dozen acres of fairground that was fenced off most of the year. And was used for actually annoyingly loud stock car racing a lot of the year, which you could hear from the house that my grandfather and grandmother lived in. But once a year, it was the most splendid thing in the world. It was the Danbury Fair, which was all funnel cakes and funhouse mirrors. And when I was a small child, the Danbury Fair was about my favorite thing in the world. And, in that way that children love fairs and cotton candy and, rides that make you throw up and that sort of thing. And it was, I think I've told the story before, of the carny who made my mother break out laughing by saying the prize at his game was a real shark's tooth from a simulated shark, which was how I learned the word simulated, as well as the verb to simulate. All took place at the Danbury Fair.
Who needs Roland Barthes and Foucault when you get to hear the word simulated from an actual carny?
From an actual carny.
The carnivalesque is really brought to life by
so all of that was a lovely thing to grow up with until old man Leahy, who owned, I believe the name was Leahy, who owned the Danbury Fair, died and left in his will the fairgrounds to his children, none of whom were into running the Danbury Fair. And so they sold the land of the Danbury Fair to a mall developer who built what was at the time anyway the largest mall in Connecticut, and named it, to add insult to injury, the Danbury Fair Mall, which name it still carries to this day. Oh, no. And so when you get off Route 684 at Danbury and you turn off the highway on exit 3 and there is the Danbury Fair Mall. And for those of you who are in New England and live near Danbury, Connecticut, drive by there and see that mall. Some of you have probably shopped there. That is actually the old fairgrounds of the Connecticut State Fair. And I hate that place with the fire of 1,000 burning suns, and I will never forgive it.
It has very Mr. Potter's vibes from It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes, it does. It's true. Okay, because there has to be some controversy. And yes, the second generation spendthrifts in the Leahy family are controversial. But has any of you visited the Western Wall in the non-controversial city of Jerusalem? Because there's this place when you go on one of the tours of it, where they've made a model of the Muslim quarter, and then they push it aside and show you the temple underneath. And it's right. So it's like, show you the temple underneath. And I feel like this happens all the time in discussions, which is just like, what about if New York City was gone? Here's these burial grounds. And and that's what the Danbury Fair Mall.
I mean, I just think that mall is an abomination in the sight of God. And, we were talking about how casually things get imploded in Las Vegas to make room for other things. I think the Danbury Fair Mall needs a controlled detonation. We should level the whole area and just build back better the Danbury Fair.
BBB, the good Biden.
So I have a positive spin to take from fairs. Your fair excluded that became a mall. But malls are their own cultural touchstones. So
I was hoping you'd say this.
So I actually think that this is fascinating. I think that this is fascinating. There is something about fairs that completely transcends time and generations.
Yep.
There is this way of going to a fair that you can watch a 1920s musical, and it's more or less the same as going to a fair in 2020. And
Yes.
Not only that, but there's and I just watched Mallrats the other day. So maybe this is, but Mallrats built the entire movie is based around the fact that we all understand what it's like to be in a mall. That's the entire thing. The entire idea. That's all the jokes are about that. Right? That you understand these archetypal characters,
right?
And that you understand these kind of power arrangements. But one of the things that I just hung out, I just spent a week hanging out with kids, and they were homeschooled. There was a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and they know Quackadillioma. Do you know Quackadillioma?
Oh, yeah.
Or Miss Susie. Miss Susie had a steamboat.
Yeah.
And I'm how did you learn that? I learned that in a bus. That's where you learn everything, right? But how do you learn that? Well, they learned it when they went to summer camp or whatever. But it's so fascinating to me that okay, so there's malls and there's fairs. Those are places that you go to that hold all of these kind of cultural touchstones and everyone can relate to them. But then there's also ones that kind of are more, that there's kind of these little things that travel through time that are unmoored from a property or a place.
Yes.
That they, and I just think that that's kind of amazing.
Yeah. There was this time when I went to buy tickets. So Knoebels is, and I see there's some fans in the comments, Knoebels is the oldest free admission amusement park in the country. It's not a fair, so it's up all around. And
Where is it?
It's in Ellisburg, Elysburg. And what we had wanted was to go to the Bloomberg County Fair, which is the biggest, I think it's the biggest fair east of the Mississippi. So there might be one in Iowa. So this is as far as the eye could see, but it's not till September. In any case, Ellisburg, at Knoebel, that we went to buy tickets and packs of tickets, and some of them are 25 cents, but they just look exactly like they did. You buy tickets at a fair. You don't get a card. You don't get a hotel admissions card. You get tickets. So we went up to buy the tickets, and I realized that I didn't have any cash, and I just reflexively said, "Do you take Apple Pay?" And it was I was in it was a multiverse issue, where the other universe was right next to this universe where people had phones and paid with Apple Pay. And this was a place where Apple Pay actually was 3 phonemes that made no sense to the person.
I love that so much. And not only that, but I would be angry if the answer had been yes.
Oh my God. I mean, and the person definitely did not know what it was and would rather give them to me than hear me talk about Apple Pay or gesture at it. And so that was and that's when I slipped into the slipstream of that.
Now, do you think this person knew the word simulated?
I don't know, but I have one more thing to say about carnies, and I don't want to overtax the subject, except that I can't tell you the number of county fairs I've just been to. So
wait, before you go on about carnies, how many county fairs have you been to this summer? You just said you can't.
It's been 5.
5. Okay, that's good. That's a good round number.
You count Cobalt, yeah. So, and it's just been also as you all are saying, there's a diet at those places that you just think it's normal to have really fried food and stand in line for it, and maybe a hot dog for health food.
And it's so delicious.
Yeah. It kind of is. When my mom was running when I was in third grade, I thought she was running for like state Supreme Court in New York. And so we went to I think I marched in 76 parades that summer. And we went to we went to every single tiny, tiny fair and festival that ever existed. And I will tell you that I have never quite recovered from enjoying parade food. We once ate never tell child services this, but my brother and I once ate my mom used to throw Tootsie Rolls. We once ate just Tootsie Rolls for dinner one night. There was just we're just sitting in the back of a van chomping on Tootsie Rolls.
It's one of the key food groups.
It fills you up.
I
you guys my carny thing because it's relevant to this and politics, and will make a nice way, I think, back to everyone talking about serious stuff. So in my old podcast, Trumpcast, for the old former president, I sometimes referred to Steve Bannon and Roger Stone and Anthony Scaramucci as carnies, just the people around, whatever. Everyone did it. So I was thinking carnies, God, they're so awful. The Carnivalesque is so awful. So at one of the county fairs, Ulster County Fair, I was oh, real carnies, how can anyone ever buy these people? They're so ridiculous. They're game show. Anyway, I came up, he had very few teeth. We were going to play a couple of darts games. And he looked at my 11-year-old daughter and said, is your sister going to spring about me? Is your sister going to spring to buy you, a special set of arrows? And suddenly I was oh my God, it works. I'm voting for Trump. He says, if someone mistakes you for your 11-year-old daughter's sister, I will buy a lot of little darts from him, and I will vote for whoever he's voting for. That's all it took.
That was Steve Brannon's younger brother, actually.
Brother, and the more I looked at him, the hotter he got. I was sort of
yeah.
Sister? Oh God, no, I'm her mother. That's so cute. He made that mistake. And he actually did the thing of, no, I can't believe it. Awesome.
So, Genevieve, did you grow up going to county fairs and marching in parades?
Not so many parades, but definitely we'd go to county fairs and stuff like that. I don't remember a ton of their names though, because it was very sporadic, but I just remembered the food. I was always I wanted to go on everything that would make you dizzy as possible. Yeah. I love roller coasters. I love anything that will make normal people nauseous. And then all I wanted to do was eat everything fried.
Yeah. It's sort of this shared indulgence that doesn't go too far. I mean, there's not there wasn't a lot of drinking. I think for probably vomiting reasons, they keep the beer selling to a minimum. I've
never thought of that. That's actually a really great point. I don't remember them being there was never anything about them being kind of drunken. They were very kid friendly and they were very sober.
Yeah. The only one I've ever remembered a beer hall at was the Big E. And that was
a beer
very
hall when
specific.
The firefighters would have a festival or something and they'd attach it to the county fair and they'd have their own keg in the thing. But that was a whole different thing.
It was
I have
still
to
separate.
go. But I love you guys. I loved this conversation. I'll see you later.
Hi, Kate. All right.
So, another county fair question.
Okay.
Is the roasted turkey drumstick?
Love.
Is that a universal county fair thing, or is it a Northeast U.S. thing?
That was definitely we should really only just talk about the Northeast corridor because when I looked at Biden's infrastructure plan, it's just about the Northeast corridor on trains. It's only that. But
well, having just taken a train from D.C. to Chicago last night, I am all for all spending on trains.
Yeah, I totally am. I wish he had high-speed rail. But that means I want to include Pennsylvania in not just New England in the turkey leg. But what about you, Genevieve?
I'm much better equipped to answer this in regards to Disneyland. That's the only place in the South that I think I've ever had one.
Oh, also medieval times.
Oh, yes. I actually really like that bean thing that they serve, the lentil or whatever it is. I don't know why. I just always loved it.
The opening soup. the medieval times is another great experience. Like we have basically at the fair, we have monoculture, and it's just monoculture's back, and everyone has tattoos, and everyone knows just how to stand in line and eat a turkey leg, you know?
All right. So no, that's
by the
so,
way,
temporary tattoos.
yeah, this is an airbrush tattoo, and it's a lion. It's not very ferocious, but it was for my birthday, which was the day we went to that fair.
So you think that county fairs are a monoculture? Like if like the Iowa State Fair is basically the same culture as Pennsylvania and.
I mean, all I know is there was a lot of Spanish being spoken there, and I'm not sure where the hijabis find their way to make a Hajj to central Pennsylvania, but they somehow do. So possibly it's the same in Iowa, but I guess not just the sort of heterogeneity of the crowd, but the grammar of the experience that Kate was talking about. The kind of like, here we eat fried food. Like you could get away with not eating trafe or pork at this thing very easily. Like there's almost no diet except for a sort of liberal elite diet that you couldn't observe there. And that was pretty cool. And there was like a coconut, some Spanish speaking people with a coconut that you can just jab a straw into, that everyone decides is like, of course, you're going to have an $8 coconut that you could jab a straw into. I never have them any other time, but at county fairs, they're like the thing I've been waiting my whole life for.
I wonder how many other cultural experiences we have that elicit the same kind of buy-in, especially since like when we think about our country and like the sense of community that we've been trying to engender, what else is there besides the county fair?
Well, that's what I started thinking over the summer, because I've been thinking it, for the last 5 years, like everyone else. I've been thinking, even the Country Music Awards, when they boycotted Trump, and then I looked at a map of what television shows people watched in 2016, thinking like, well, everyone's got to watch, there has to be something we agree on. And it was, aside from the news networks, it was just Duck Dynasty, like culturally underserved red states, culturally underserved. You heard that David Brooks style expression here.
Okay, but so this is really interesting, because I think there's something about the county fair that is essentially a sanitized, apolitical form of red state America that that is kosher for urban and suburban peoples to go to and enjoy. Your thoughts?
No, I think that.
I mean, you're not supposed to watch Duck Dynasty or be into that, but you can go to 5 county fairs a year and feel like you're in touch with in touch with the zeitgeist.
I mean, I guess so, except that it's too much fun for that. I mean, it's not as though it isn't like they called it at the times like a redneck safari, because first of all, like the diversity of people there, and also the polyglot factor, which I was really surprised at. I mean, would you guys have guessed, Genevieve, that central Pennsylvania, you would hear Arabic, you'd hear Yiddish, you'd hear Spanish.
Central Pennsylvania. No.
Having been to Hershey Park,
yeah,
which actually has kosher food and has a big Muslim if it is in driving distance of Philly, Harrisburg, you're gonna get a lot of religious diversity.
That's right. So that maybe that's what a red state. Well, Pennsylvania is a perfect example, right? Because Pennsylvania went for Biden for what it's worth, but is like just always right there, kind of. Well, not quite always. We thought that it was going red, and it's not. But I'm not even sure that these people vote. Like, I was there with a friend of mine that works for Jewish Philanthropies and doesn't spend a lot of time at county fairs. She's the mother of a friend of, very urban person, very rootless cosmopolitan, and she just said, like, what the hell? Like, who are these people? And that, yeah. So I'm not I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. We thought maybe they didn't vote. Maybe these are people that live in culture that are just like, I just want to go hear some, I want to go hear some Bruce Springsteen or some whatever it is, and eat a turkey leg.
I do find it interesting, though, because I think Pennsylvania has a similar dynamic to New York, where you do have like the lower part by Manhattan and Long Island and like a little bit around there. And then you have like the further upstate is also differentiated in terms of community. But I thought something Kate said earlier was really interesting about how it's an extremely kid-friendly activity. Yeah. And when you think about it, what are we trying to emulate for children? We're trying to emulate our best behavior, our most communal behavior. Yeah. So maybe that's the key.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't like, and the fact that it's cheap, things are just better when they're cheap, not just because you don't spend money, but because you're not around assholes. That's why the mall is worse, or that's why I feel squeezed at Hershey Park. Just like every single like little drop of time there.
The most expensive kisses.
The hotel, the thing, the chocolate pancakes or whatever.
I think there's another element of the county fair, though, that is culturally interesting. And by the way, I just want everybody to know, neither Genevieve nor I, and I suspect not Virginia, had any idea we were going to be talking about county fairs when we started this show. All we agreed with Virginia was that we were going to avoid the subject of the Taliban. So we are not talking about the Taliban. I think one of the reasons that the county fair is weirdly politically neutral ground, despite being culturally not neutral ground, is that it is part of this long-running myth that we have for urban people that they are not as urban as they think they are. And so, you go to one of these fairs and there's all these agricultural prizes, and you go there as an urban person, and like you have no point of contact with the hog raising competition, but you've read Charlotte's Web as a child, and you have this idyllic sense of that these things exist, and it allows you to participate in it, and so you feel very affectionate toward it, which is not the way people feel necessarily about Duck's Dynasty.
I am also amazed at this tier that's between the, that place on Martha's Vineyard, Black Dog, whatever shop, people wear those t-shirts, and they're like, beyond classy, like they're like a world beyond Prada is like, or like that cap from Dan, whatever the fishing tackle place in Montana. I think there was just a show down there. Anyway, to show you that they are like in the American grain and they love these places. And then they're like, global luxury brands, or, the idea that at Disney World, some of the hotels were designed by great architects or whatever. But this middle thing that is so weird in the country fairs, where they're brands that you see nowhere else. I don't know who makes them. They're not handmade, perfect, bespoke things, but nor are they Mickey Mouse. And they're no licensed characters. They're just like strange things that someone painted on something. There's so much inefficiency in how the whole thing is run. The people are always like giving away another set of darts to someone like me who looks like her daughter. Naturally, I get a lot of attention for that. But I mean, it just seems like, and they were playing a game actually that I'd never seen called Coverall. Please tell me if anyone knows what it is.
No, please tell me.
Everybody swarmed to play this. It's like in an airplane hangar, and you pay 50 cents, and you try to cover a board with these little balls, and everyone is sitting all around like at bingo, except more. It's packed. They've paid 50 cents, and the first person to wins a Cuisinart. Like,
oh wow,
gift. I know. it turns out chopping vegetables is something we all need to do. So anyway, universal solvent of the American identity. I don't know. I felt happy about it.
All right. Tony Cava has promised us a story of being at the Alameda State Fair when a race riot broke out. I cannot possibly pass this up. You dangled it, dude. You own it. What happened?
Bring it.
So you want to hear that one rather than about the Disneyland jail? Because that's a good story.
I think we got both, but
Disneyland jail.
we're totally going for both. But first, race riot at the Alameda State Fair.
Okay.
Dude, the floor is yours.
This was in the mid-'90s. I had never been to it was a county fair, actually, and I'd never been to one before. So some friends were like, hey, let's go to the Alameda County Fair. It's so much fun. So if you look at a map of the Bay Area, Alameda starts like at the west at Alameda Island, which at the time was basically, everyone was like Navy officers lived there. And it was like, if you went there, it was like going back in time to the 1950s back there. Very white place. And then you had West Oakland, which was very urban, as they say, a black, poor neighborhood. And then it goes through Oakland and then up to the Oakland Hills, which is very wealthy. And then over, I guess that's the Livermore Hills, down to Livermore, which is very rural. And it was very much a farming community. So that was all in the span of this one long, narrow county. So you go to the county fair and it's kind of like the first time. It's kind of like one of these things is not like the other. It's like the first time that these white people are in contact with these black kids. And of course, it's hot and it's summer. So there's young kids there, there's young teenagers. They're just there to have a good time. And then we're all just walking around. And then all of a sudden, you just got this vibe in the crowd. It just got really edgy. And then all of a sudden you see these policemen. I mean, I never figured out what the deal was. You just see these policemen like hopping over barricades and chasing, running. And then you just see these black kids, just these teenagers. I don't think they were doing anything at all. They were just being teenagers. They start running. And then when everyone sees that, it's like this panic and like there's a stampede. And we were, luckily enough, we were up against a building and we just kind of sucked up against the building while everyone ran by us. And I never did figure out what the deal was. All I know, it was like white cops chasing black teens through like the cow display for the Livermore, Farmers Association. So that's that story. It might not have been
but
good.
That's it's kind of upsetting in a
Yes.
I mean, I'd have felt better about it if it was like, like if you couldn't,
on the roller coaster.
yeah, if you couldn't,
Yeah.
if you couldn't too easily imprint upon it lots of stuff that is unpleasant, but it actually sounds like it probably wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a county fair and there was kids there. They might have been turnstile jumping or something like that, which is what kids do at a county fair. And just the police just decided to react in this very aggressive way.
As you said, I'm not surprised that they were, turnstile jumping or being adolescents, but I am actually surprised that cops were present. One of the things I feel like with fairs is that they are a little bit uninsurable. And like nobody with who could have blood on their hands and will have to pay for it wants to be anywhere near it. So right?
You would think that anybody, the last people you want to mess with is carnies, right? So you would think that just that would maintain order. But the police, it was kind of like one of these things where they just kind of came out of the woodwork. Like you didn't see police there until you saw police there. And then there was this crazy presence of the police. So
I only remember seeing them around the periphery to deal with the parking. That's the only time in my memory that I have seen officer presence.
Exactly.
Did it feel like they were real cops, Genevieve, or or maybe just kind of
not really, more traffic?
Yeah.
So you have another story about county fair jail.
It's actually the Disneyland jail in Anaheim, and this is embarrassing. But what the hell? I've embarrassed myself numerous times on this show, debased myself. So why not one more time? Um, we were like 16 or 17, and my mom was like, "Oh, hey, well, let's go to Disneyland. We'll take you to Disneyland." And I was like, "Well, how about if my friends can come?" And my brother was my younger brother. I have two brothers. One brother's a year and a half younger. One's 5 years younger. So one brother was 10, the other was 16, I was 17. Let's go to Disneyland. Well, cool, Mom, we'll follow you in the car. So we all hop in my friend's car and we follow my mom there, my mom and my 10-year-old brother, and then the four of us, my friend, my brother's friend. And of course, us being 17 years old, we brought pot along with us and marijuana. And we go there like first thing in the morning and we park in the Disneyland parking lot. We're super stupid. We start smoking pot, and of course Disneyland just has the park surveilled like up the yazoo even back then. And before you know it, there's like this undercover policeman knocking at the door, and my friend's refusing to roll down the door, and he's like, "What do you have there?" And he's like, "I got pot. What are you going to do about it?" And he's like, "Out of the car," and we're so dumb we comply and we get out of the car, and he like takes us and he marches us off to the back of and my mom and my younger brother had gone into the park on their own. "Call me up at 5 o'clock and we'll meet," is what she said. Okay. So anyway, we get marshaled over to the Disneyland police jail, which is out in the kind of the back of house at Disneyland. There's a spine that runs in the middle of it. It's all back of house. And we're back there in this holding cell. And it's like, at first it's just us, and this is okay. We're like, hey.
And what right do they have to hold you?
Well, we're teenagers. We weren't smart enough to just get in the car and drive away.
I'm sorry. What right do they have to arrest a teenager?
It's Disneyland and they own Anaheim. They can do whatever they please, I'm sure.
I just want to observe that it is not obvious to me that being Disneyland conveys police power to you. We're gonna have to bracket that one for further research and discussion.
Analyze Disneyland as its own country quite thoroughly.
Exactly. So anyway, so we sit there. It's just the four of us. We can take this. We're tough. Yeah, we can. Well, as the day progresses, they're arresting people in the park, and they're dropping them off in the cell with us in the holding cell, and these people get progressively worse as the day progresses. They're progressively drunker. They're progressively stoneder. So by the time we're done, it was like being at the county jail or something like that. And it's like we're all like, oh my God, I'm gonna go sell smokes or something like that. So then at like 5 o'clock, I was supposed to call my mom, and the police come in, call your mom, and then I get escorted to my mother across the park, and then have to explain to her like, we're all being held in this holding cell, and you have to come bail us out. And long story short, we had to sign a thing that said we would never come back to the park.
And have you ever been back to the park?
I have not been back to the park.
Really?
I think you should go back now, just so that you can come on in lieu of fun and tell the story of how you violated your agreement with the Walt Disney Corporation.
That would be brilliant.
What I'm afraid of with that is that they will. It's kind of like crossing the border in Canada after they've caught you with pot. You could try to do that in 15 years, and they'll look you up and they know right away. The Disneyland Corporation.
You can get in. I have confidence in you, Tony Cava. All right. Ducks with Pants has left an incredibly tantalizing question, which is, want to see a duck? And I just want to say, yes, we want to see a duck.
Well, yes, obviously it's a play on Joe Penner's old line, want to buy a duck, but this duck is definitely not for sale. I figured since we were distracting ourselves, I would take the opportunity to show off my birthday present that I got yesterday.
I love it.
Appropriately reminding you of the time, of course.
Does it have pants?
No, apparently not. But they are difficult to come by. My dad also got me this, the engineer duck, and my niece Faith made this for me. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
What's that made
But
of?
I presume it's clay. It looks
So
clay.
excellent.
Anyways, this was all part of a fest, not a fair. It's a fest with a PH. I should probably trademark that since that's my deal. Had the fifth mostly annual EG Fest yesterday, where I invite other singer-songwriters to come perform my songs for me on the occasion of my birthday, so I can be serenaded with my own creations. And that went off spectacularly. I had 8 different singer-songwriters come out, do 9 songs in total. And
That's awesome. Also,
so-
happy belated birthday.
yeah, so it's much more belated than that because I put off the show till Sunday because it's a better day to try and get people out, even in the pandemic and in San Francisco under cloudy skies. But yes, I got this, and I didn't get a chance to show it off at the show because I was too busy with hosting duties to open presents. So now I get to. Everybody in lieu of fun gets to see it at least.
Well, that is excellent, and quack 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 with pants to you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Frank Valadez, you also have a tantalizing thing in the Q&A. What's on your mind?
Well, at the beginning of the show, what was on my mind? Well, I wanted to say, Ben, I'm sorry about the Taliban stuff and driving me crazy. I've seen it on your Twitter feed, and it's bad for everybody. But I feel as though you're feeling this in some way beyond what other people maybe are of knowledge, and so just thinking about you a little bit. But then when the show started, I was curious about the difference between a state fair and a county fair to totally change the subject. And is like a state fair just like a further fair than the county fair? Do they advance from the county fairs to the state fairs, like the hogs or things? How does that work if that's part of Virginia's research or activities? And then just want to throw something else in. Ben, if you want cocktail suggestions while you're in Chicago to drown your sorrows, or if you're in Chicago.
I'm not in Chicago.
You moved on. All right.
I said I took a train from D.C. to Chicago, but I was in Chicago for about 90 minutes.
All right. So I won't drop them in the chat, and we can go to answering the question.
I am going to let Virginia handle the county fair versus state fair question. I just want to say, do not feel bad for me about Afghanistan. I want to tell you who to feel bad for in Afghanistan. I got an email this morning from a person who will remain anonymous, who is a advisor, informal pro bono advisor to an organization in Afghanistan that takes girls on. I want to be very vague about this because I don't want to draw attention to in any way that could identify people. I would say gives girls in Afghanistan experiences that of a sporting nature that are routine in the rest of the world and extraordinary for them. And this person is trying to figure out whether he needs to shut down the organization now, and is completely devastated by it. And also, the girls in question don't want to shut down the organization. These are the people that you need to feel bad for. And if I told you what this is not like bacchanalian activity. This is what you would think of as, routine, routine, good, wholesome activity for boys and girls of a type that's been going on for more than 100 years in the United States. And there are big organizations devoted to it. And all these organizations are going to be shut down. Their leaders are going to get arrested, killed, if they're not lucky enough to get to the airport and escape. And all of this was avoidable And yeah, so I've had a bunch of emails from people who, who are trying to help other people get out, and you know, doing what we can, which is to say nothing at all to help people. But it is not me that people, like I'm upset by it, but that's the limit of its impact on me. A lot of people are going to die, and they're going to die because of, in part, because of bad policy choices. Um, and while that happens, a lot of people in this country are going to be assessing and shifting political blame for it. So I heard Mike Pompeo on one of the Sunday talk shows yesterday pretending that it wasn't the Trump administration that struck this deal, pretending that it wasn't the Trump administration that promised to have already done this by May. Um, you know, Joe Biden just gave a speech in which he says he stands by this decision completely. I'm glad he's taking responsibility for it. That's all I can say. I would not want my name associated with the outcome of this. Um, Elizabeth Dragoo, the floor is yours on presumably happy subjects like county fairs.
Yes, I'm here to talk about the Elkhart County Fair, because it is, for a while, it was the second largest fair in the country, and now it's either the second or third, and I'm not sure which. But I'm curious to know if Virginia has ever been there.
I have not. Tell me about it.
It's amazing. Gracie says hello. It's the only county fair I've ever been to, so I have nothing to compare it against.
Yeah.
But I've driven past, like I've been through other counties, and I see signs that say county fair this way, and I drive past, and it's like a block. And I'm like, that's not a county fair. That's just like whatever. I can tell you two stories about it. I know one year, we always have a free grandstand show like every night for a week. And one year they had booked Lady Antebellum, and it was just before they got really big.
Wow.
And then they got famous in the interim, and they tried to back out. And the fair board said, "Oh, no, you don't. You are coming here." So they did.
All right, that's pretty great.
I know, it was amazing. And the other story that I will tell you, and this happened later, when my kids were probably early middle school, late elementary. It was one of those years when it was just hotter than hell. And the last thing I wanted to do was to go to the fair and crawl through the heat and humidity that is northern Indiana in July. And so I said to my girls, here's your choice. You can pick either one. We can go to the fair like usual. You can ride the little trains and we can get some food. Or I'll give you each $20 to spend on whatever you want. And they were like, yeah, $20. They were all over that. And I got to stay at home in the air conditioning, and they each got $20 to spend. And I was ahead financially by the time he figured everything out. And so I was good with that.
That is excellent. Thank you, Elizabeth. Virginia, you have your assignment, your tourism assignment.
Okay, so you mean, to go there, but also I want to talk about the difference between state and county fairs, just because I don't know it all, unless it's somewhere in the Constitution. I bet it has to do with the Electoral College. But I can say, drawing together some of our topics that I put into Google, which is my, tricky way of doing research while still on a Zoom call, I put in what is the difference between, and I wanted to say a state and county fair, right? Well, it turns out everyone today is not looking that up. They're looking up what is the difference between the Taliban and Al Qaeda. So said Taliban, and then I tried to finish state and nope, I couldn't get anywhere. County, nope. FAI, nope, still Taliban. And then finally FAR, and I still didn't get anywhere. No fora, no Reddit forum. So this is something that, someone could really do a dissertation on the difference in there. You have the field to yourself.
Isn't the difference? I've just always assumed this from having gone to the Connecticut State Fair. I have always assumed that the state fair is where the winners of the agricultural competitions at the county fairs duke it out. So, like, if you're, Wilbur the pig and you won the fair thing, then you get to go to the state fair before they slaughter you and eat you.
Right, so it's like regionals and states. It's like for sports.
It's like for sports, but I don't know. I was going to say made that up just now, except I didn't make it up just now. I made it up probably when I was 12. But yeah, I've just sort of always assumed it.
I think Kellyanne Conway, by the way, won a beauty contest at some kind of, I don't know where she's from, but Long Island. But anyway, some kind of beauty contest thing. Wait, Matt Clifford, you said I sound like I'm broadcasting over the PA at a county fair. Is there like echo or something? Or I'm yelling?
No, you sound great.
Okay.
I think we're gonna ignore. I think that's just like someone's razzing you. Okay. Paula, the floor is yours.
I'm not sure which question I'm supposed to be asking.
Any one you want.
Oh gosh.
As long as it's not about the Taliban.
Yeah, okay, so my question is, where do farmers markets and bougie fairs fit into all of this? Because I can't imagine like a farmers market in your very fancy downtown area being...
The farmers market is kind of the opposite of the state fair. I mean, the state fair is people going out to counties... to rural counties or formerly rural counties in order to do, in order to sort of like get in touch with, rural agricultural culture, plus funnel cakes and rides and vomiting. The farmers markets is rural America figuring out what urban America wants from them and bringing it into cities. It's kind of the opposite effect, isn't it, Virginia?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, one thing that's interesting, even at like what they just call fair in Bloomsburg, I don't know, it's regional Pennsylvania State Fair maybe, is that while they presumably have come to show the biggest tomato and the biggest pumpkin and have that part of the competition, there are no vegetables for sale, like meat. Although like they I think have taken to deep frying some beets, but it's mostly Snickers bars deep fried. And so I'm not sure that
the deep fried Snickers bar is what will finally finish off the Taliban. I just want to say
and that is one of the drone drops that people are proposing in this new phase of the war. Sorry, we're talking about it.
And deep fried Oreos.
Deep fried Oreos. Like that.
Timothy Scott, you have promised us a great state fair story, so the floor is yours.
All right, Ben. I actually just made that up so I could talk about the Taliban.
Oh!
Touche.
I don't have anything about the Taliban. I just wanted to talk about my cat. I'm getting a new cat, I think. So
you went with the state fair, a great state fair story, to actually fake me out about the Taliban and then talk about something completely different?
Yeah, that's
brilliant. I love it. The floor is yours. Talk about the cat.
Well done.
Hopefully I'm getting a cat.
Any particular cat or just a cat in general?
No, a particular gray tabby. Real pretty cat.
I'm excited about it. Will you bring it on the show to show us?
I definitely will.
All right.
Please do.
So, let's see. I just want to point out that the poll result, did you grow up, which was misspelled, did you grown up going to county fairs? I was getting in touch with my inner Carney. 69% of you said no.
Oh.
So I just want to say this is like not a, don't ever let it be said that In Lieu of Fun isn't broadening people's horizons, exposing them to new things. Devin Nunes's lawyer, don't loser the Greek chorus for this response. This is an urban crowd.
This is also still like midsummer-ish. We're still not quite over, so you have homework and opportunities.
Yep. Go to the state fair. Just Google state fair near me. Go or county fair near me. It's some fun stuff. It's basically what the modern amusement park is based on, and with the exception of the wooden roller coaster, which cannot exist at the state fair and is a thing of cosmic beauty. It is I agree with Virginia, a piece of Americana that has not yet been corrupted by effective polarization. And so I think, Virginia, your assignment is to go to a county fair and provoke partisan division at it. Bring division of America to the county fair.
Walk around
Drag them down to the level of the rest of us.
I don't know. Okay, by the way, I just put a link to the best one coming up in September, which I just think is incredible. So if you guys need to do a live event, I will help out. To provoke them, though, I don't know if I should say Biden pulled out too early, or if I should what would my T-shirt say?
It would you'd walk out with a giant sign, stand in the middle of the event pavilion, and just with a giant sign that says, "Are you vaccinated?" And that would
I think more like if I started to say low-fat diets are the way to go.
Exactly.
Turn everyone against me.
Or you had a vegan stall.
There were people who looked exactly like everyone else in an "I got the shot" T-shirt. So if that's political, I'm telling you, these people are wholesome and sane, and there's not QAnon among them.
We are gonna leave it there with that stirring. Bring us together at the fair. It's where red and blue meet. We have no idea who our guest is going to be tomorrow, but we are working on it. Virginia Heffernan, you're a great American, a great county fair attendee, and a great avoider of the subject of the Taliban. We will bring you back soon. And we'll be back ourselves 23 hours and 1 minute from now. And until then, Genevieve De La Fera.
We don't have fun anymore, but we still have county fairs and all things deep fried.
Indeed.
Excellent.